welcome to another brand new episode of the Jedi Way here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always on this show by the great Laura Kelly. Laura, how are you? How are things?
I'm amazing. It's been a while, John. This has been
Yeah.
really fun to get to do all of these fun reviews with the Geek Buddies, but I'm happy that it's just back to you and me talking about Star Wars. This is going to be a good time.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, we are back at it to have some fun talking about Star Wars. Today, we are talking about all the stuff that's about to come. We're just going to kind of check in with the Star Wars franchise, check in with the Star Wars IP, and see where all these projects that we're both so super excited about, and I'm sure many of you watching or listening to us are super excited about, where they are in the developmental process, where they are in the coming out process, and do we think some of these things are actually going to happen, or are they being delayed for a reason? And what else might be popping up that'll surprise us down the road? Because we know the people over there at Lucasfilm and Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy, Filoni, Favreau, everybody involved there. You know, there's a lot of moving pieces all the time. You just never know what's going to get shelved, what's going to all of a sudden pop up and be done. But we're going to check in with all of it for sure. Laura, but before we start, Laura, I got to ask you, how are you feeling overall about the Star Wars universe, the franchise, the IP? We're out of Boba Fett, which got some kind of middling reactions from people, but people eventually loved Bad Batch, and then we've got Kenobi on the horizon. So where are you at mentally about the Star Wars universe right now?
I mean, I think I'm very optimistic at this point because I think, they made a very smart move, I think, announcing the Kenobi release day. What was that, the same day that the finale
Yes, the
of the Book
finale
of Boba Fett came out? I think that was a smart move. Book of Boba Fett was a little bit mixed. We're seeing Galactic Star Cruiser getting a little bit of mixed reviews. So it's been an interesting week nonetheless. But I think, having the Bad Batch Season 2 and having Kenobi on the horizon, not to mention Star Wars Celebration in May, I think we're in a really good place. I mean, we're also, in terms of just reading in general in Star Wars, we're in an amazing place. We're waiting on Queen's Hope to come out in April. We just wrapped up phase 1 of the High Republic. Phase 2 starts in October, and so it's been a really, really exciting time for Star Wars reading too. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about some of the stuff that we're expecting on screen here soon, because there is a lot on the horizon, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, some of those reviews for the Galactic Star Cruiser, I mean, most people were complaining about the price, and I absolutely get that. It's mind-blowing to be charging that much for a situation. But when you look at the videos, when you look at some of the reviews, it looks like an incredibly immersive experience. Does it 100% check all the boxes? Who knows? You'll have to experience it, I guess, to really find out for yourself. But this is, I think, another game changer by Disney, by Star Wars, by Lucasfilm, and other people, other parks, other other IPs and franchises who want to create immersive experiences that people can go and explore now must take a cue from this Galactic Star Cruiser, because look at Harry Potter. As immersive as it is at the land in Florida, the land in California isn't as immersive. Having worked there, you can see the other buildings and the office buildings. It takes you out of it. And in Florida, you can't see anything but the buildings themselves in Hogwarts. So what's the next level they can go to? And maybe Universal Studios will be inspired by what you see there. And you could actually ride a broom in a 3D Quidditch game or do some kind of crazy shit that I am looking forward to for sure. But we shall see. Either way, we shall see. But let's get into the things we want to talk about, Laura. Where are we gonna start off first in looking at things that are coming up here in the world of Star Wars?
Well, let's talk about where we were supposed to be going in terms of on-screen projects first. We were supposed to be getting Patty Jenkins' Star Wars Squadrons film. December 2023 was the original release date. Since then, it's been delayed. There's been some talk of creative differences sort of happening, but I think, we started hearing about these delays right after Wonder Woman 84 came out, so that couldn't have been a coincidence. But I think that what they're probably doing at this point realistically is actually letting her work on some of those projects that she's contractually obligated to work on before she can get back to this, because I feel like this Star Wars Squadrons project was really exciting. Everybody was really excited about this. She seemed very much on board. We saw that great promo at Disney Investor Day in 2020. I feel like it's still going to happen, but I feel like I'm the only one that thinks that. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I was doing research obviously for our show today, and Screen Rant one day ago posted an update on this and said that the Rogue Squadron release date is still set for 2023, which is fascinating to me because what does that mean here? Because now you look at all the stuff that was around this situation, right? Wonder Woman 1984 didn't do so well. So once again, people immediately turned to Star Wars and were like, well, should Patty be doing Rogue Squadron? And almost right on cue, there were these creative differences that popped up, and now Patty and Disney and Lucasfilm supposedly were parting ways. But now what we're reading, what I'm hearing as I look at this this report here from Screenrant is maybe these creative differences are smaller than they anticipated because Patty has moved off the Cleopatra movie. She is now not working or not directing the Cleopatra with Gal Gadot. So that clears up some time. So maybe what they're speculating here might be true, that Patty may still be on board with directing this Rogue Squadron, which is why it hasn't moved off its release date, and maybe taking the time now working on both the new Wonder Woman film that I think she's doing to kind of redeem that franchise after the debacle of 1984, and then also come strongly with Rogue Squadron as the first Star Wars film we'll have seen in 4 years, I think, since Rise of Skywalker. So I find this to be an interesting, fluid situation here with Patty Jenkins and Lucasfilm. And this is what happens with creatives and studios, Laura. You just kind of initially it seems like not a good idea, then things start to move around. All of a sudden, windows open up. And do you think she might come back? Do you think that's possible?
I think for sure. I mean, I think it has to happen. We got this great story about, her dad being a fighter pilot, and she's got that strong connection, I think, to things. We've seen how successful she can be as a director of an action-based film. I think we're in for a real treat if and when this can actually come to fruition. And I just remember thinking, like, so many people seemed so pessimistic right away when this was announced that it was just not going to happen, which is sort of par for the course with Star Wars. We had, creative differences happen on Rogue One and on Solo, a Star Wars story. Like, it's not that it wouldn't be the first time something like this happened. I mean, look at, episode 9 with Colin Trevorrow's exit. Right. But I like to think that it is actually going to happen. The initial reports really seem to indicate that it's just going to be delayed. It may not necessarily happen in 2023, but it's still going to happen. Yeah. And I think a lot of people just jump to the wrong conclusion just based on that. So my fingers are still crossed. I'm still optimistic that it's going to come to fruition eventually.
Yeah. I mean, and look, nothing motivates an artist more than being challenged or doubted. And I got just from the limited amount of time I've spent watching interviews with Patty, meeting her once at a Blu-ray release for Wonder Woman, and then also watching that video that she did for Rogue Squadron. This is a woman with a lot of strength, a lot of inner strength, a lot of inner moxie, and I got a feeling that she's going to be like wanting to prove a lot of people wrong, and maybe coming out with a really great Wonder Woman 3, and then right after that blowing up the world with a fantastic Rogue Squadron. So don't count her out, and don't count out this situation from happening. 2023 there, though, seems pretty idealistic or pie in the sky, because we're already almost into March of 2022, and you will have to have gotten already the shooting schedules, all that set up, and then the post-production. It just seems like they're going to move it eventually. They just don't know where yet. And maybe once we get a script set in stone, we'll have a better idea of when that's coming out. So we shall see. But let's move on to Bad Batch season 2 here. This one is very much going to happen. Some speculation here of when and where it might be dropping. We're seeing early spring. We're seeing maybe as late as June, July. What do you think is what is happening here with Bad Batch season 2? And when do you anticipate it might be coming out here, Laura?
Honestly, the Bad Batch, I'm sort of anticipating getting a trailer any day now. What we saw in, there was a little clip in Star Wars Insider magazine that said that Bad Batch would be premiering in spring 2022, but we don't really know what that means. We know that Kenobi's coming out May 25th, but like, you would think that the two shows wouldn't want to overlap. Now, you may have different audience, more audience, obviously, watching Kenobi than watching Bad Batch. But I just don't see them overlapping. That just seems really unrealistic, which makes me think that we're going to get Bad Batch soon, that they may be dropping multiple episodes every week instead of just one at a time, so they can get through it before Kenobi comes out. But I'm honestly not sure. It's really strange that we just have almost no information about the Bad Batch season 2 and what to expect beyond you're getting a season 2 and there will be 16 episodes, and that's all you get for now.
Yeah. And I wonder what they're going to explore here, because obviously we saw by the end of the season a lot about cloning. A lot, we saw the patch on that guy who came on that doctor who came in and met Nala Se, and it looked like the patch with a guy who was trying to get young Grogu at the beginning of the Mandalorian season 1. So how is that going to line things? I remember this is 10 years before the Rebel Alliance and all that stuff really comes to pass. So what adventures are we going to see with the Bad Batch as they go forward here? How much is Omega going to be taking more and more of a how can I say this, more and more of an alpha dog role in that group and kind of leading them occasionally on certain missions? How is she going to grow into that role? And then what are they going to experience? Are they going to find other clones that have been spread out throughout the galaxy? Are we going to run into some legendary characters? Are we going to run into some characters who have been non-canon, characters and come be a part of this and get reintroduced back into the mainstream canon world of Star Wars now? And some bounty hunters. I mean, do we see Boba Fett? Do we see Fennec Shand come back? What do we see during this time here as it's going along? I wonder.
I would think like Cad Bane and Fennec Shand would be a for sure.
Yeah.
They'd be for sure to, I think, return in season 2. I'm really curious to see how it plays out with we had member of the Bad Batch not end up joining back up with the group at the end. Right. Crosshair at the end of season 2 was just kind of left on that platform to fend for himself, and we don't know what his fate was. So I'll be really curious to see maybe kind of some of that like guilt that our group might be feeling from just leaving him, but it's like they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Omega, I really want to get armor. So there's all kinds of little things on my wish list that I would like to see play out in season 2. I think that we're in it for the long haul for this show. I think they did a really good thing by starting so far back, so close to Revenge of the Sith. I mean, we could get years out of this story. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how far we actually make it in season 2 in terms of the timeline. And then maybe we'll get some indication at maybe Star Wars Celebration if they do a panel as to how many seasons they're actually expecting to get out of the show.
Yeah, and you talk about the how long it might be running here. When people first started looking at this season, remember the first season didn't start out 100% great for a lot of people. It was a little mixed, a little divided, some of the reception that eventually kind of found its stride and hit its stride. And now people are speculating, as you are here, Laura, that there may be more seasons to come of this. And I remember when the season first started, people were speculating whether it was only going to be a one-off. How are they going to weave them into this world? And now it feels like people are excited to see what more we're going to get from this entire crew. And as you said, Crosshair, what Crosshair's game is going to be the whole time. Where is he going to go? Because he said he had the emotion chip removed, which I think one of the creators confirmed in an interview as well. So it is officially gone. So he was doing what he was doing, not influenced, at least by the emotion chip, by the Empire, but influenced by the Empire's ideology and soldiers following orders. So is this going to be continuing through multiple seasons? Him as the antagonist with Hunter as the main protagonist with Omega, of course, and leading to some final confrontation when either one or the other takes the other out or gets the other person to join them on the other side. So very, very interesting stuff to see for sure. And we know D. Bradley Baker coming back. Michelle Ang is coming back. Rhea Perlman probably will come back as Sid. Gwendolyn Yao is Nala Se. No way Nala Se, I don't think, is not appearing in some way. Maybe Narsher Dalel as Admiral Rampart as well. Ming Na Wen, obviously, and Corey Burton as Cad Bane. So exciting stuff for me. I loved Bad Batch, and we did our reviews with the Geek Buddies as well. A lot of fun doing that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to get here in season 2, and should be soon. So yeah. I don't think they're going to overlap. I think they're going to wait till Kenobi ends, then drop Bad Batch. Give us a little bit of break, Bad Batch. Okay. We shall see. We shall see. You might be right. You might overlap. We shall see. All right, what are we off to next here? What else do we need? Oh, speaking of Kenobi, please, Laura.
Exactly. Yeah, let's jump into Kenobi because the one that we have an actual date for, May 25th, 2022. It's the day before Star Wars Celebration starts, so that's really exciting. Deborah Chow directing all 6 episodes of this. We know that Hayden's coming back. We've gotten a couple of recent cast announcements for this show, including the fact that Rupert Friend is going to be joining the cast as the Grand Inquisitor. That was I think, what was it, either Bestman Bulletin or the Hollywood Reporter dropping these stories. I am already just mind blown at the idea of the Grand Inquisitor appearing in this show. That was just not something that I had considered. If he ever was going to show back up again, I would just assume it would be in animation or maybe in one of the video games. I just assumed it would be Jason Isaacs bringing the voice back like he did in Rebels. But this is really exciting. The fact that we're actually going to get to see one of these Inquisitors in live, more than one, more than
Yeah.
likely, I think, in live action. I'm really excited for that prospect in particular. Is there anything particular, like, specific you're looking forward to with Kenobi that you want to see?
I mean, I want to see, Vader and Kenobi. That's the thing. That's the hook for us old trilogy guys. That's the hook, to see them coming back and having their interactions. We had that moment in the Book of Boba Fett with AHSOKA Tano and Luke talking about Anakin. So this Anakin still carries that stigma for so many people who are fans of Star Wars, multiple generations of fans of Star Wars. Anakin is that enigma. No matter how much information we have of him, we're still so desperate for more information, more interactions, more scenes, more of the discovery of why he did the things that he did. And I think Clone Wars is a massive reason for that. Getting that great background, getting more knowledge on him, seeing the humanity of Anakin beyond what we saw in the prequel trilogy. It was nice to see that. So now we create ideas of, well, since he's going, and we know he gets redeemed, so where are the moments where he kind of questions what he's doing or worries about what he's doing, or has old friends come back, or old people from his life, like an old mentor like Kenobi, older, coming back into his life? What are those interactions like? So for me personally, even though they're pitching the greatest rematch of the century or whatever, to me, it's more about the dialogue. I don't ever need to see them cross lightsabers. Will it be awesome? Probably. But I think it's more about the dialogue. And you mentioned the Grand Inquisitor stuff. I think the idea that we're bringing that in to be very much a live action main focused part of this Kenobi series excites me, because I always love when stuff comes from the animated series or from the books or from old lore and comes boom right into the main canon live action, and we can kind of enjoy that. Some people were upset about the Cad Bane and how it all played out, but whatever. It was great to see Cad Bane live action. So I want to see what we get. And apparently there's two more, with Moses Ingram playing an Inquisitor and Sung Kang coming off of Fast and the Furious, a series there, playing one of the Inquisitors as well. And I think apparently, or maybe the fifth brother, there's rumors of that as well, that he might be playing that. So do you anticipate we'll get 3 Grand Inquisitors? Doesn't it feel a little bit like Rebels if we start to have multiple Inquisitors? Are you worried about that? Does that concern you at all?
If it does feel like Rebels, that I would just embrace that, because I love Star Wars Rebels, so I'm all
True.
for that. And we didn't get a ton of time with all of the Inquisitors in
True.
that show, and this is only 6 episodes, so we don't have a lot of time in general with
Yeah.
Kenobi. But I think that it's just going to be really exciting to get to see him do anything other than just sit around on Tatooine. We have spent a fair number of episodes of these various shows on Tatooine now, and it's been great. It has definitely exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
But from the sound of it, we're going to be in other parts of the galaxy. At least that's kind of how I'm interpreting it. I'll be curious to see how close Vader actually gets to getting anywhere near any of that sand on Tatooine that we know he despises so much. So it's going to be really fun to watch this entire show play out. We know that Kenobi has a big purpose in wanting to keep an eye on Luke. There has been some speculation that Leia is going to be appearing, and young Leia is going to be appearing in this as well. There was a casting call at one point for 10-year-old boy and girl of Caucasian needed to be playing these two characters. That was the assumption, I think, by most people. So this is going to be really fun to watch it finally come to fruition, to see those prequel fans finally sort of, not finally get their comeuppance, because we've been getting it for a long time, but to really bring Hayden back into the fold, and to see him be as happy as he's been doing all of these convention appearances. I just can't wait. I can't wait to watch the reaction. I think is going to be the most fun.
Yeah, and look no further than Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home. So many people didn't like that second Spider-Man movie. And some people didn't like that first Spider-Man, but they didn't like his Amazing Spider-Man series. Did they like Andrew Garfield as a person? As an actor, absolutely. People fell all over themselves for his performance in Tick Boom, rather. But here, stepping into Spider-Man No Way Home, this was a redemption arc, not only just for Andrew Garfield catching who he catches in the movie. No spoilers for the 5 of you who haven't seen it, but overall, kind of redeeming his Spider-Man in this movie. And now there are these big noises being made about him coming back to play Spider-Man, and possibly in the Sony universe, with all these characters being set up, and Tom Holland would stay in the MCU universe. Now that we've created multiverses, anything is possible. So the same thing could happen here in redeeming Hayden. Yes, the prequel trilogy supporters and lovers absolutely love Hayden and will support and of course want him to be redeemed, but there are still quite a number of original trilogy people or even sequel trilogy people who do not like those prequels and did not like Hayden's performance. Having him come back probably with a better director to give him what he can do, show what he can do, have some fantastic scenes with Ewan McGregor, I think will be so good for the fandom and will heal some old wounds and even possibly provide a bridge between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy lovers to find some common ground to enjoy Hayden Christensen's Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker. And I think that's a good thing for the Star Wars universe overall. And if that's not enough, we're getting John Williams doing the theme, which was announced just a few days ago, Laura. So we don't know if he's doing the whole score. Certainly he's 91 years old or 92 years old. So that's a lot to ask of a gentleman in his 90s to do an entire score, but he's working on 3 separate projects with Spielberg and somebody, I can't remember who else, but then also doing a theme here. Are you excited to hear a Kenobi theme from John Williams?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, everybody's going to be really excited, I think, to hear more John Williams music. Everything that I've heard about what's happening at Galactic Star Cruiser, they've got original John Williams Star Wars music playing there. Apparently, it's amazing. So I think, obviously he hasn't lost his touch. And I love that he still has his head in the game at like the age of 90 to still be like making these scores. It's just incredible. I would probably speculate that he's not doing the entire score.
Right.
I'm kind of surprised that we haven't gotten that news yet, because we did just get that news for Andor of who's doing the score. That's not coming out until third quarter, presumably this year. But the fact that we already have that premiere date for Kenobi, we don't know who's doing the full score yet. I'm wondering, like, is this why we don't have a trailer? Are they like really running behind and really scrambling to get this done before Star Wars Celebration? Okay. Like, I just am really curious as to where they are in the process, because this is interesting that we're getting this announcement about John Williams. I'm just surprised that we haven't heard more of things in that sort of same vein, Good
point. Are you going to Star Wars Celebration? Can you announce that or not?
Absolutely. Okay. I would never miss it. Not in a million years.
There you go. And that's happening in Anaheim. So who knows? Who knows where that could end up? We shall see if I find my way to it. Andor is our next thing here. This one, as a Latino, I'm super excited for Andor coming out, and it's coming out very soon. 12 episodes. They're looking at the latter half of 2022 here to drop this thing. This is 5 years before A New Hope. And we've got Genevieve O'Reilly coming back as Mon Mothma, who we both enjoyed in Rogue One, Stellan Skarsgård, Denise Goff, Fiona Shaw, who is about to come back in season 4 of Killing Eve, which I'm looking forward to. Kyle Soller being a part of this. And as you mentioned, Nicholas Britell being announced as the person doing the score for Andor. And his credits include Succession, Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, Don't Look Up, which, however you feel about it, got nominated for a score, Cruella, Vice, and The Big Short. So an interesting eclectic group of movies that Nicholas Britell has scored. So but all of them have this theme of, I don't know, exposing things, of pushing forward, of showing you things. So I wonder if that is kind of an element of his scores that attracted Lucasfilm and the Star Wars people here to bring him on to the Andor project, because I imagine Andor is also going to be about exposing stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And maybe we'll start to see a little cracks in the Resistance. We'll start to have questions about the Resistance. And I don't know, just go down that path, which is very interesting to me. But how excited are you for Andor? What are you anticipating? What are you looking forward to seeing in this series?
I mean, the fact that we're getting like a spy thriller show in Star Wars is really exciting. Just on the surface, I'm a little bit hesitant after the Book of Boba Fett to sort of really lean into like, this is the genre that they're selling this as, because that ended up kind of not being what the Book of Boba Fett was, what we thought it was going to be.
Fair.
So I would prefer to kind of go into it with no expectations, but I think that I mean, it kind of makes sense that that's what it's going to be. That we know for sure that we're not getting Alan Tudyk as K2 in season 1. I think he did say that he's supposed to appear in season 2. We already know that the show has been renewed for season 2, so somebody out there has seen it and liked it. So I think that we're in for a real treat with this. But just that like sort of spy thriller esque, like thinking of things like, the Bourne trilogy and bringing some components of that into Star Wars is really exciting to me. I think we also saw a lot of like behind the scenes things coming out while they were filming during the pandemic. They were filming a lot outside. There
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of action happening inside a sort of like volume equivalent that we're getting a lot of filming taking place for like the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. This was a lot more exterior shots that they were doing, and they were filming in England. So there's going to be a very different feel, I think, to this show overall. And I'm kind of hoping for maybe at least a little bit of like maybe some like live action Rebels characters. Maybe not. It's
Ooh.
like maybe it's not the core Ghost crew, but maybe there's some like extraneous characters that will show up at some point. I don't know if Bail Organa is set to. I don't know if we have official word that Jimmy Smits is going to be in this.
Mhm.
And I know we don't have any official word that he's going to be in Kenobi, but I think that that's a safe assumption, probably
Yeah.
for both of these, that he's bound to show up at some point. So that'll be great too. But
Yeah.
I think out of all of the shows that I'm looking forward to this year, Andor is pretty high on my list, just because of what we know so far,
Yeah.
of what we can expect. And I know that you're in that same boat too.
Oh yeah. Well, Laura, I mean, you talk about 6 episodes for Kenobi, and what do we have for Book? Like 7 or 8 for Book of
It
Boba
was
Fett?
7, yeah,
7, yeah.
yeah.
This is 12. So this is an ask of Star Wars fans. And if Star Wars fans are complaining about 6 or 7, just in case if Kenobi isn't, doesn't take off and isn't great, and some people are really disappointed by it, that's a 6 episode series, 7 episode series. I wonder what a 12 episode series, what the reaction is going to be. And I wonder if this is 12 episodes that are 30 minutes each, or 12 episodes that are 45 to 50 minutes each, possibly to an hour. It all depends. So I find it to be fascinating that this is the one they're spending like a lot of time on and taking time to do multiple episodes here that are longer than the previous Star Wars TV series that we've gotten. So other than the animated Bad Batch, obviously, but I'm curious, very curious how they're going to make this work overall, and how, what's the word I'm looking for? How much of a breadth they're going to cover, like how much of the Star Wars universe. You talk about the spy stuff, so we're going to have like a big exploration of who's involved in what, who are the traitors, who are the people who are good, who are bad, who are all of this, who's got the plans, all these things are going to be explored here. So for me, I'm very curious to see how wide of a net they cast in this show to tell the story that they're telling in this show, because 12 episodes demands a lot of time with the multiple elements and storylines that are happening within the show. So
In content, I think that at one point there was, I think, a casting call put out there for what sounded like a young version of Cassian. So I have a
yes.
feeling we're going to be bringing in some more of
Mm.
that sort of flashback content that we've now been getting, I think, time and time again in Star Wars. We used to not get
Yeah.
any flashback content ever in Star Wars. So it's really kind of mind blowing how much
Sure.
we've gotten so far. I have a feeling that that trend is going to continue in this show, and maybe even more so in this show, given how many episodes they have to work with and how much time they have to work with. But I think, overall, I feel like the Rogue One film
Mm.
was fairly well received, and
Yes.
we've got Tony Gilroy back on this project. So I think I have all the faith in the world that this is going to end up being something that Star Wars fans really like, but also something really different and maybe a little bit darker, kind of like Rogue One was. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know this, if you go to Mondo, I think Mondo.com, they have the entire new reissue of the Rogue One soundtrack with all the new tracks that were released on vinyl. It's $75. So just know it's a pretty penny. And I don't even know if they have any more left, but when I last looked last week, they had them there. So just putting that out there for you all to consider for your pocketbook. All right, Laura, where shall we? And listen, and one last thing, if we got Jimmy Smits and Diego Luna, let me tell you something. As a Latino, we've been kept out of sci-fi for so long. To have something like this come and be a part of the Star Wars universe in such a powerful way, I think it's super, super exciting for us and for our community for sure. Anyway, all right, let's move on to season 3 of Mandalorian. What do we got here, Laura?
At this point, we're anticipating getting this third season of the show in December of this year,
Yeah.
which seems a little bit like a stretch. I mean, just given kind of how things have been going, we've seen patterns of delays in the recent past. sometimes because of COVID, sometimes not. We know that the Ahsoka show started filming, I think, 2 months later than it was originally supposed to. So I'll
Yeah.
be curious to see if this actually plays out. I think what I'm most curious about is how Disney approaches the sort of marketing aspect of this,
Mhm.
of really communicating to fans. If you don't watch the last 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, you
Yeah.
are going to be lost. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna need that context, because when we pick right back up with Din and Grogu and an N1 starfighter all of a sudden, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. So I'll be curious to see like how forceful that sort of message is of, you're going to need this context, make sure you watch these.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I know when we did the Hollywood Critics Association reviews on the Book of Boba Fett with Dan Murrell, Dan said it over and over again. Like, do I have to watch all this stuff in order to be a part of enjoying what's going on in the Star Wars universe? And in the end, I said in one of the latter episodes, yes, this is what Disney is essentially guilting you into doing, but also hoping that you do because they want you to enjoy the content they're putting out. So this is very much the approach you're having. And it's like the old days in comic books where you had to buy multiple lines in order to read and finish the entire story of a crossover event. That's essentially the same blueprint that you see going on here. And same thing with Marvel. Marvel making sure you have to watch those Marvel TV shows in order to understand what is happening in those movies as we go deeper and deeper into phase 4. Certainly, there's no way you can watch Multiverse of Madness and not have seen WandaVision to really get the full effect of that all. And who knows what else, and maybe even What If. You'll have to watch What If as well. So this is the world now, and people have to accept that if you want to be a part of this and really get the most out of it, you're going to have to make the effort and find the time to watch all this stuff so that you can have a full experience of seeing it once it happens. So yeah, with Mandalorian season 3, it's a great point you bring up, Laura. Like how many people are going to be go back and watch those Boba Fett episodes? And then you have to ask yourself, because I know I ask myself after this finale, like, what was the whole point of season 2 if you just quit getting trained with Luke real quickly and then went right back to the Mandalorian? I'm a little unsettled by that. And I wonder if we're going to have episodes where he's not, where Grogu is not. So we see these other Mandalorian episodes without Grogu and then weave in Book of Boba Fett. I don't know. And then what is Kenobi's influence on all of this? A lot of people saying that Kenobi might be some sort of influential launching point on all of this. Do you sense that we'll get a lot of series kind of intertwining with Mandalorian season 3?
I have sort of asked myself, like, do we think that, mostly just because we're getting some of that sort of cloning content and discussion in the Bad Batch that's taking place in such a different part of the timeline.
Yeah.
I do wonder if these shows like Andor and Kenobi that aren't set really all that close to where the Mandalorian and Ahsoka are going to be set,
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to be bringing some of those components and so it does all intertwine. I would think it would make sense that they would do that, but as far as we know, like Jon Favreau doesn't really have his hand in the pie when it comes to Andor or Kenobi.
Good point.
And
Yeah.
that could play a part in it. But the point that you bring up of, what was the point of Mandalorian season 2 if Grogu's just going to end up back up with Din Djarin, I think is a really valid question. And my question is also like, does that sort of cheapen that big emotional buildup and payoff that we got at the end of the Mandalorian season 2, which was incredible, by the way. I love that finale so much. Going back
Yeah.
and rewatching it again recently, I'm still just mind blown when I watch it. But does Mandalorian sort of take, not even that, I guess it's Book of Boba Fett / The Mandalorian, kind of take away from that finale a little bit? And that's, I think, going to be an interesting question to address, especially in, again, how they sort of communicate this of, you need it, and it's not even like WandaVision where you might be missing some of the emotional connection to Multiverse of Madness if you don't have all this background of what happened with Wanda. With the Mandalorian season 3, like, you are missing like really important vital plot lines of what happened at the last 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett. So it's just, it really is vital that that these people actually go back and watch all of these in order to be caught up.
Yeah. And if we look at Kenobi, the reason I bring up Kenobi, and I know, guys, Kenobi is dead by the time the Book of Mandalorian, the Mandalorian season 3, obviously, because Luke showing up at the end of season 2, obviously, Kenobi's dead, and where it's set in the time and everything like that. But I mean, like, if Kenobi has flashbacks in the show Kenobi, where Obi-Wan is looking back remember, he witnessed so many things with Mandalore, so many elements of its history, so many historical moments of the recent history of Mandalore that could play into laying the groundwork for some of the issues that we see in the Mandalorian season 3, certainly with the Darksaber and him going back to kind of cleanse himself in the waters of the mines, the stuff with his Mandalorian sect, which for the first time was brought into question in that episode in the Book of Boba Fett, whether that's the right way to go, and seeing the clear division and the kind of distaste that they have for Bo-Katan and Bo-Katan's family, his sect, not he himself, but his sect and the armor. So there's a lot that could play into, if we have, as Laura mentioned, another flashback. We could have a flashback here in Kenobi that lays a little bit of the groundwork for the Mandalorian season 3. And as we both speculated here, this is essentially the way you have to look at Star Wars, is you have to watch everything if you're going to get the full experience. So we shall see with Mandalorian season 3, but certainly looking forward to it. Oh, I know you're looking forward to this next one here, Laura. Please take it away.
Oh, I'm so excited for Ahsoka. I mean, even when she popped up again in episode chapter 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, I was so shocked. I shouldn't have been shocked. Dave Filoni was directing that episode. It should have been a given, but I was still really surprised to see her see her show up in that, because we know basically from season 2 of The Mandalorian that her main objective, or at least one of her objective, is going to be the hunt for Grand Admiral Thrawn,
Right.
and presumably for Ezra, and the fact that we've got what is it, Natasha Liu Bordizzo is her last name, playing Sabine Wren in this show. I mean, we know that she's going to be showing up, so I think that the fact that it's going to be connecting to Rebels in a big way is, again, sort of begs the question: how necessary is it going to be to have watched Star Wars Rebels? Like, you can sort of establish some of that content a little bit, but are you really going to get the emotional payoff of what I assume will be an eventual reunion between Ahsoka, Thrawn, Sabine, and Ezra? Is that really going to pay off for you if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels and you haven't seen, or even if you haven't read the Thrawn novel, the new Thrawn trilogy? Like, is that going to play a big part of it too? I would assume at least some of the side characters that might come into play, but who knows? But the fact that Ahsoka is right now in pre-production, it's supposed to start filming in Los Angeles in April, so in 2 months. That information comes from Bespin Bulletin and from Hollywood Reporter. We're expecting that series at some point in 2023, which makes sense because 2022 is already a little bit packed with Star Wars. Yeah, so it makes sense that we'd wait for a little bit. But yeah, the fact that we're getting Hayden Christensen back in the show, obviously Rosario Dawson starring as Ahsoka, and then Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who we talked a little bit about recently, and then Ivana Sokno is going to be in the show in an unknown role. So this is going to be really fun. It's the one I'm probably most excited for of all of these, of all the timelines, just because Ahsoka. So I'm very much pumped for this.
Well, and you mentioned things you need to read. Hasn't there been an Ahsoka novel? So will you have to have read that to have some element of background of what she might be referring to, some nod to that kind of to any of those stories or events that happen in that book? So will there be some of that comes into this show as well? And you mentioned the casting here, Ray Stevenson as well, cast in an unknown role here. And THR, as you report in your notes here, reports he'll play an admiral who is a villain, though they clarify he is not playing Thrawn. Yeah, Ray Stevenson should not play Thrawn. That's a different energy completely. But I love Ray from Rome on to the Thor movies, even his Punisher movie. I've enjoyed Ray Stevenson as an actor, a burlier British actor. So seeing him step into Ahsoka will be fascinating to see what kind of role he plays. And I sure hope it isn't a throwaway admiral role with an occasional appearance. I hope it's a very strong role, that it works in conjunction with Admiral Thrawn, possibly in going after Ahsoka, in battling Ahsoka's merry band of people that she's going to put together in this quest. So much here to explore. And I imagine Filoni is just chomping at the bit to get this out there and start shooting it and put it out there for people to consume, because I think seeing Ahsoka live action has been fantastic. Enjoying her certainly in the Mandalorian season 2. And yes, I understand some people had some issues with her showing up and promoting Jedi training all of a sudden in the Book of Boba Fett. I understand that, but it was still great to get a few more scenes with Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all works, and if maybe Mary Elizabeth Winstead? Is Hera Syndulla? Is somebody else involved in the lore, or a new character? I'm just so excited and can't wait to see it as well. And another Latina being a part of Star Wars as well. So certainly very, very curious to see what we're going to get. What do you think? What are you hoping to see overall? What is there a storyline you want to see wrapped up from Rebels? Is there something you want to see touched upon? Is there something that you're hoping we get in terms of an interaction? Is there a surprise character that you're hoping might slide into this Ahsoka series that you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, my answer is always going to be if any Star Wars Rebels characters show up, that would just make my day. And that's going to be the case with this year, too. I think, though, when it comes to this Ahsoka show, one of the things I really want to see is maybe some more information about what happened on Malachor. We see her
Oh
like
yeah.
go back into the world between worlds and then get back onto Malachor following this, this duel with Vader that took place. And I would just kind of like to see some of that aftermath. Like,
Yeah.
where does she go when she gets out of Malachor, presumably using one of the Inquisitor's ships that was left behind?
Mhm.
But like, where does she go from there, and how involved does she make herself in components of the rebellion, because we don't see her
Yeah.
involved with the rebellion at any point. So there's definitely some big questions in terms of timeline. I mean, we even had, like, I think Dave Filoni talking about, like, well, we don't really know what he knows, but
Yeah.
he's like, we're not really going to reveal exactly what the time period has been and where these certain scenes were taking place. And that's information that I really would like.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that we see just some of those some of those answers that we didn't get earlier from the Star Wars Rebels epilogue or anything. I just want them to address a few of those things.
Mhm.
I think, though, what they've done really well with Ahsoka, though, is this sort of gradual buildup. All of the people who are fans of the Clone Wars, there's so many more people that are going back and now watching those episodes
Yeah.
of these animated shows, thanks to the fact that Ahsoka showed up in The
Yeah.
Mandalorian season 2 and then
More.
showed up in the Book of Boba Fett. We've got so many more people watching those live action shows. And I just love that people are now getting motivated to go back and get some of her backstory. So the way that they've chosen to sort of like not go real big with it, they're kind of being subtle with it, but like slowly sort of weaving Ahsoka into the story to make people more familiar with her, I think has been really smart.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious to see if they sort of take some of those lessons and apply them to some of these other characters we may end up seeing in Ahsoka.
Mhm.
Like, would Thrawn show up in Kenobi or something?
Yeah.
We'll see some of that synergy happen in these different shows that are going to be coming out this year.
Yeah, it's a whole new world, ladies and gentlemen. You better get on board. Synergy is the name of the game now in a lot of these franchises. Trust me. And HBO Max is about to start doing that with the DC side of things as well. With all those
Yep.
series coming out, they're going to weave those into the main overall storylines in the movies as well. So, this is the way of the future. You need to get on board. All right, let's move on to something else here, Laura. We've got some mystery series here that's happening from Jon Favreau, and speaking of Spider-Man No Way Home, John Watts directing an episode of it. That's according to Discussing Film. What's going on here with this?
Good question. It's an unannounced Star Wars series that's going to be showing on Disney Plus. It's supposed to start filming this summer in Los Angeles, and it has
Yeah.
a working title of The Grammar Rodeo. And that's all the information we have on this. The fact that John Watts is going to be involved in Star Wars is really exciting. Obviously, I think people are very happy with how he handled the Spider-Man trilogy from Marvel. So I think this is going to be a great welcome for him, I think, in this universe. But this is really interesting because, as far as we know, Rangers of the New Republic is kaput.
Mhm.
So what is this? What is the show? Because we haven't really had anything else announced yet. So fingers crossed that maybe we get some information on this at Star Wars Celebration. But at the moment, this is a big question mark. Do you have any speculation about what this might be?
Yeah, there's two things that I've come across here, and which one is really insane, and I'll start with that one. Is the last time I heard Grammar Rodeo was in The Simpsons, when Bart Simpson was trying to get away with one of his lies, and he claimed that he was going to a national grammar rodeo in Canada. So in my mind, that immediately makes me think about young kids in a situation having to kind of trick their parents or do something behind the scenes. And according to Cinelinx, when they first reported on this spinoff series, they were describing it as a, quote, Stranger Things in space, with a story that focuses on, quote, a younger generation of heroes during the High Republic era. So could this be the High Republic series that a lot of people have been speculating has been in the pipeline, might be coming, might be a part of this? Is this what Favreau is working on? And John Watts makes so much sense considering, as you said, how he came out of the Spider-Man trilogy here, shooting actors as if they're in high school and all the stuff that they have to deal with. So a Stranger Things in Space is also smart studio-wise to create content for the younger fans, right? And the older fans are all into the movies, all into the shows, and so are the younger fans. But this is something specific for maybe young adults, specifically telling what a teenage existence would be like in the world of Star Wars. And Star Trek already having done that with Prodigy and Lower Decks to a degree. So it's no surprise that Star Wars sees that as a new avenue for them to explore and tell a story of Star Wars through that prism.
The High Republic is a really interesting possibility. To see that potentially come to life in live action is really exciting. I'm obsessed with phase 1 of the High Republic. I love it so much. The last issue of the last comic of phase 1 comes out on Wednesday this week, and then it's really over, and then I'm really sad. But there's one thing that has really been, I think, consistent amongst maybe not all of the High Republic fans, but a good majority of the High Republic fans, which is we've got these sort of 3 main Jedi that are the main characters in the adult novels of the High Republic, the 3 adult novels. And there's been a sort of like, call to get some prequel content of these 3 Jedi as younglings and as Padawans coming up in the temple. There's, I think, a lot of desire for something like that. So if that's what this is, and this is just going to be the 3 of them causing chaos when they're young on the Jedi temple on Coruscant as they're coming up through the ranks, sign me up. I'm 100%. But if it's High Republic at all, I'm on board. No question about it.
Yeah, it seems to be the one area they haven't brought into live action. So why not explore it and see what we can do? And it certainly will quiet all those people that are like, can we be done with this timeline, this Skywalker timeline? There are other places to go. Certainly jumping to the High Republic would be something very interesting to see. And those people involved, John Watts and Jon Favreau, certainly gets me excited to see what we're going to get. All right. And then we've got some rumored post, what is that? ST Jedi Order? What is series for?
Sequel trilogy. Sorry.
So rumored post sequel trilogy Jedi Order series for Disney Plus. What's this all about, Laura?
That is a good question. So we don't have a ton on this, but this comes from a former Vanity Fair reporter, Joanna Robinson, who did an appearance on the Ringerverse podcast. And she indicated that she has heard, quote, whispers that Lucasfilm is actively developing a new trilogy that tackles a revamped Jedi Order. So that sounds very risky, I think. But I think that there's, she goes on to say there are a lot of ideas that Lucasfilm has that will never come to fruition. And who knows, this might end up being one of them. But the fact that they would want to be bringing back some of these characters, Rey, Finn, Poe so soon, it just feels too soon to me. It maybe feels a little bit too fresh. We're still a little bit too close to the Rise of Skywalker, which for the most part didn't please a lot of fans. I think a little more distance wouldn't hurt.
Right. I'll say this. I agree with you. We're still too close. That being said, though, I would be very, very happy to have a new trilogy with new people involved, with an actual plan, and redeem all the performances and the characters that we saw in the sequel trilogy. I'd be very, very excited about this. A new Jedi Order. And we won't get Kylo Ren, obviously, because Kylo is dead. So, spoiler alert. So, would this be Rey? What would Finn's involvement be in this? What would Poe Dameron's involvement be in this? What new characters can they explore and create from scratch in a post-sequel trilogy? I'd be very, very curious. And maybe you're right, Laura. Maybe we are too soon. So this is just whispers, and they're talking, because she also said that you could fill the Grand Canyon with all the possible ideas that she's heard coming from Lucasfilm that could come into fruition at some point. So maybe this is just the beginning. And I've heard Daisy has started to soften her stance a little bit about coming back. So there could be conversations happening behind the scenes with everybody involved that they want to have involved coming back. So I would be very, very happy to have Daisy Ridley come back. I know people love Adam Driver, and he became the main person everyone fell all over. I get it, but I loved Daisy Ridley as Rey, and I would like her to be written and I don't know, just there was more justice done to her character, and I'd like to be written in a more layered, complex, nuanced, powerful way that could be exciting to witness, that fully takes advantage of Daisy's talents as an actress and puts her through the ringer and makes you care about that character even more. She symbolized so much to so many young girls coming into Star Wars in a way that Leia didn't. No offense, Princess Leia, but it was a different kind of female character to them gravitate to, just like Ahsoka Tano was a different kind of female character for people to gravitate to. So I would like to see that with Rey. So I'm down if they're going to make it happen. But Laura Kelly is absolutely right. It feels too soon. We should wait a bit, maybe another 10 years, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe that's too long, but you talk about having justice for these characters. Look at John Boyega. The fact that it was sort of it
100%.
kind of seemed like it was going to be established that he would be this Jedi character in the sequel trilogy, and then that just went nowhere. So the fact that we could potentially be getting the rising ranks of a new Jedi Order, bring him back into the fold. I mean, do the justice to him and to Daisy Ridley in this series that may or may not have been there in the sequel trilogy. And I mean, when you talk about, we've talked a lot about all of this sort of Disney synergy among these shows and pulling these different threads and adding them to different shows. Think about the other characters that could potentially show up in something like this, including Grogu. We don't know for a fact that Ahsoka's dead by this time. It's a safe assumption, but she could potentially show up too. Sure. Ezra, if everything gets resolved in a positive way from what takes place in the Ahsoka show, assuming that she actually finds him and brings him back. There's a lot of possibilities there, I think, of different ways you could sort of thread the needle and bring these different components into these different shows and just continue to tie everything together in a very pretty bow.
Yeah. Babu Frick. I mean, come on. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Amen.
All right, and what we got at Disney? There's what Disney / Lucasfilm is not addressed. What have they not addressed yet, Laura? Let's go through those real quick. What do we got?
Yeah, we got a ton of announcements at that Disney Investor Day in 2020, and one of the things that I've not heard anything about since then is this Lando Calrissian standalone series that was supposed to be involving Donald Glover. I can't remember if there was any rumor at all of Phoebe Waller-Bridge being involved in that. I think we didn't get a lot of information about this to begin with.
Right. No, there wasn't. There wasn't. I don't think there's any a concrete confirmation that she was going to be involved in it. There was another thing that they were working on together, I think with Amazon Prime, that did not end up happening. But this is, I haven't heard anything about her being involved in some way.
Yeah, so this one is still kind of a mystery. Now, obviously, Donald Glover is a very busy guy. He is, he's in demand, and rightfully so. So this might just be a thing that is happening more distantly on the schedule, and we just haven't gotten there yet. But it just seems sort of suspicious that we haven't heard anything about it. So fingers crossed that comes soon. The Acolyte is another one of the things that's really high on my list of things that I'm really interested to see play out, because I think this is going to be extremely different. The show that, is supposed to be taking place towards the fall of the High Republic. This is a totally different time period than the Skywalker saga. Yeah. We've got Leslie Headland signed on as the showrunner of this show. Beyond that, we don't know a whole lot about it, but it just sounds like it's going to be something that is refreshingly different. So that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to, but something, again, we haven't heard a lot about recently.
Yeah, and the rumors that Amandla Stenberg has been looked at as possibly being the lead of that. That has been confirmed, but the rumors have been that she's the one they're looking at to lead the Acolyte for sure. So we shall see with that. All right, and then Taika, right?
Yeah, there was a Taika Waititi movie that was announced at one point, or during the Investor Day. Again, haven't heard much about that. There's been a couple of films here and there of different filmmakers that we're sort of familiar with that have been rumored to have Star Wars movies in production. I don't have it on this list, but I know Kevin Feige was supposed to be producing a Star Wars film at some point. I thought that it was clarified at one point that was separate from the Taika Waititi film, but who knows? So there's lots of stuff in the works, but I mean, the assumption is that all of these things would be taking place after Star Wars, after Rogue Squadron, which is up first. So we're like years away from getting all of these other things, unfortunately. And yeah, in terms of other films, Ryan Johnson is the last trilogy that was announced who knows how long ago. And again, just radio silence.
Yeah, I can't imagine that happening. I mean, talk about needing a long time. I feel
Yeah.
like that's going to need a long time. We also have rumors of a droid story being a film that's possibly they're looking at here with C3PO and R2D2 just being them, which be really kind of interesting and groundbreaking to see a film focused on those two. And J.D. Dillard as well was rumored to be working on a film. He even liked a tweet that mentioned that he was working on a film for Star Wars. So we haven't heard anything about that. So as Laura said, we got a long way to go till we see some of these projects actually start to gain steam and happen. And there's probably a number of people that we haven't even mentioned that are probably have been tapped behind the scenes to, hey, we'd be interested in a pitch from you. We'd be interested in something. What interests you about Star Wars? Write something, and then we'll see what we can do with it. And those haven't been revealed either. So what we can take from our entire conversation, I think, is that there's no stopping the juggernaut of Star Wars right now. And there's multiple avenues that they're exploring for generating their content, putting out their content. There are multiple eras of Star Wars that they're going to. And the fact that it's a very diverse approach to Star Wars, I think, is 100% a positive thing that we're seeing here. And Laura, there's something for everybody. More than anything else, there's something for everybody. Even though you may have to watch all this stuff in order to get it all, there's something for everybody to really enjoy and identify with, I think.
Exactly. It's like if the animation stuff isn't your bag, that's totally fine. Stick with the live action stuff. I mean, but the fact that we're getting more animation stuff at all in the form of the Bad Batch, which was, I think, hugely successful overall
Yes.
as season one, the way that we've seen animation in Star Wars evolve from where it started with I guess it goes back even further than this, but I'm initially thinking of like the Clone Wars film to the way things, sort of evolved in Star Wars Rebels and how it sort of had a different look and feel to even where the Clone Wars season 7 took things. It's just mind blowing thinking about the strides that they've made. So there's so many great things happening in Star Wars animation. I hope people will give the Bad Batch a chance and then we'll hopefully work their way back to some of the other things. But you're totally right. The fact that we've got so many diverse new people coming into Star Wars to direct and produce and write these projects is nothing but positive. And if we have to wait a little bit longer to get some of them, I'm willing to pay that price. I think, especially when it comes to quality over quantity. I'm not saying that Marvel hasn't put out tons of quality stuff because they have, but they put out a lot of stuff last year. And I kind of like that Star Wars has been a little bit slower and more selective with some of their stuff. So hopefully that strategy continues to sort of play out.
Yeah. And, it's a self-generating thing, isn't it, Laura? Because as soon as we get through 1 year of content that's put out there on TV or put out there on film, the next wave of content is already happening in that year with books or comic books or other things that have come out. So it'll keep continuing to create and be the source material for future projects that are either animated on TV or on film. So it is constantly going to be a factory in a way, but in a good way, of creating content that can be transferred to film, television, or animated series. So look forward to all of that as well. Yeah, this is the time to be a Star Wars fan. It was great to be the original trilogy, prequel trilogy was great. Clone Wars was great, but this is the time. There is so much to consume and explore. And that's why there's 5 million YouTube channels dedicated to this, because there is a source of endless content and constantly being replenished for people to discuss and talk about. And we just did that now in the Jedi Way. So that's a positive on so many levels. All right. Well, there you go. That's our episode for the Jedi Way this week. Thank you all so much for watching or listening to us. Remember, you can always listen to anything we do on the Outlaw Nation Podcast Network, on the Outlaw Nation Podcast Network podcast, wherever you download podcasts. All the stuff is there. Go and subscribe to it. Laura, great to see you again. Outside of the boundaries of our reviews we do for the Geek Buddies, please let people know everything that's going on and where they can find you.
It's great to be back, John. If you want to come find me on Twitter, I am at shutup_Laura. It's the same handle on Instagram. And the show that I host with my friend Alice, that's an audio only podcast, is Force Toast, a Star Wars happy hour. Find that on Twitter at Force Toast Pod.
There you go. As for me, you can always follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. More stuff happening on Twitch, so come aboard and follow and subscribe to me there. Also, please remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. Really trying to get to 25,000 subscribers as soon as we can here on the channel. So if you haven't done that yet and enjoy the content we're doing, please make sure you subscribe down below and then share this on your social media so that your fellow Star Wars fans can come and take a chance on Jedi Way and hopefully enjoy what we're doing here on this show as well. All right, Laura, we got to get out of here. Please let the people know what we got to say here before we go.
Until next time, remember, your focus determines your reality.